Let's imagine waking up in the dead of night to find two glowing amber orbs fixed directly on you from the foot of the bed. Most cat owners dismiss this as a quirky feline staring contest, or simply a sign of love. However, what if that unblinking gaze is actually a quiet cry for help? We often mistake a silent cat for a peaceful cat, assuming that if they aren't hissing or hiding under the sofa, everything in their internal world is perfectly balanced. However, cat biology is built on a foundation of stoicism. In the wild, showing vulnerability or distress was a death sentence. Therefore, cats evolved to mask their discomfort with a poker face that would frustrate even the most seasoned psychologist. Today, we are unboxed the layers of that mysterious feline mask to reveal the reality of silent stress. We're going to look at the microscopic changes in their behavior, the things you see every day but likely misinterpret, that suggest your cat is struggling with a heavy emotional burden. By the end of this video, you will look at your cat's stares and quiet moments through an entirely different aspect, and you'll have the tools to intervene before their silent stress turns into a physical health problem. The evolution of the mask. To understand why cats cope emotional stress so quietly, we need to look back thousands of years to their ancestors, the African wildcat. Unlike dogs, who are social pack animals that use vocalization and obvious body language to communicate needs to the group, cats are solitary hunters. In a world where you are both a predator and potential prey, showing any sign of weakness, illness, or emotional instability makes you a target for larger predators. This evolutionary baggage means that even in the safety of your living room, your cat is hardwired to suppress outward signs of distress. They don't have a yelp for emotional pain. Instead, they turn inward, entering a state of hypervigilance that many owners mistake for simple alertness or even guarding the home. This stoicism creates a dangerous communication gap between us and our feline companions. When we see a cat sitting perfectly still for hours, staring at a wall or a doorway, we might think they are just being zen. In reality, they could be experiencing a spike in cortisol, the primary stress hormone, caused by something as simple as a new piece of furniture or a neighbor's cat walking past the window. Because they aren't destructive like a stressed dog might be, their suffering remains invisible until it manifests as a medical issue, such as idiopathic cystitis or overgrooming. Understanding this masking behavior is the first step in becoming a truly intuitive caretaker who can see past the silence. Decoding the stare and posture. Let's look specifically at the visual in our thumbnail. The intense, unblinking stare while you sleep. While some cats do this out of a desire for breakfast, a hard stare with dilated pupils in a dark room often indicates a cat that doesn't feel safe enough to enter a deep sleep themselves. If their ears are slightly tilted outward, what behaviorists call airplane ears, or if their whiskers are bunched tightly against their face rather than fanned out, they are in a state of high emotional arousal. They aren't watching over you like a guardian. They are monitoring their environment because their internal threat meter is stuck in the red zone. Beyond the eyes, we have to look at the loaf position. We all love a good cat loaf, but there is a distinct difference between a relaxed loaf and a tension loaf. A relaxed cat has their paws tucked comfortably, their tail wrapped loosely, and their eyes squinted in a slow blink. A stressed cat in the same position will have their muscles bunched, their weight shifted forward as if ready to spring, and their tail might be twitching at the very tip. This is a cat that is trying to appear small and inconspicuous while remaining prepared for a perceived threat that we, as humans, might not even be able to hear or smell. The midpoint reflection. Before we move into the environmental triggers that cause this silent suffering, I want to pose a question that often divides the veterinary and behaviorist communities, and I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Is it possible that our modern, high-tech indoor lifestyles are fundamentally incompatible with the emotional health of a cat, and by keeping them safe inside, are we inadvertently subjecting them to a lifetime of low-level, inescapable psychological trauma? Some argue that the lack of predatory outlets and the constant exposure to artificial lights and sounds create a sensory cage, while others believe a well-enriched indoor life is the only way to ensure their longevity. Where do you draw the line between safety and psychological freedom? The invisible triggers. If we accept that cats are silently stressed, we have to ask, what is causing it? Often, it's things that aren't even on our radar. For example, micro-shifts in the household hierarchy are a major source of anxiety. If you have multiple cats, you might notice one cat subtly blocking the doorway or sitting just a bit higher than the other. This is passive aggression in the feline world, and it can leave the submissive cat in a constant state of emotional exhaustion. Even the scent of a new laundry detergent or the high-pitched hum of a new electronic device can be perceived as an invasive sensory attack to a creature that can hear frequencies up to 64,000 Hz. Furthermore, we often underestimate the impact of our own stress on our cats. Research has shown that cats are highly sensitive to human emotional states, often mirroring the anxiety or tension of their owners. If you've had a difficult week at work and come home feeling drained, your cat picks up on those chemical and behavioral shifts. Because they cannot ask you what's wrong, they simply interpret the heavy air in the home as a general threat, leading to that quiet, watchful behavior as they try to navigate the changing emotional landscape of their territory. Actionable solutions and enrichment. The good news is that once you recognize the signs of silent stress, you can take immediate steps to lower your cat's cortisol levels. The most effective method is environmental predictability. Cats thrive on routine and a sense of territorial security. Ensure they have vertical spaces like cat trees or shelves where they can observe the room from a position of safety. Provide safe zones where they are never touched or disturbed, allowing them a place to decompress when the house becomes too loud or active. Incorporate pheromone diffusers and interactive play sessions that mimic the hunt-catch-kill-eat cycle. By allowing your cat to express their predatory instincts through toys, you give them a healthy outlet for the nervous energy that would otherwise turn into silent stress. Remember, a cat that spends 10 minutes killing a feather wand is a cat that feels confident and in control of its environment, which is the ultimate antidote to anxiety. The physiological toll of prolonged silence. While we have discussed the behavioral mask cats wear, we must also address what happens beneath the surface when silent stress becomes chronic. When a cat's nervous system is constantly stuck in a state of hypervigilance, their body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, which are designed for short bursts of fight or flight, not for weeks or months of environmental tension. Over time, this constant chemical bath begins to wear down the immune system, making your cat significantly more susceptible to infections and inflammatory conditions. One of the most common medical manifestations of silent stress is feline idiopathic cystitis, a painful inflammation of the bladder that often has no bacterial cause but is triggered almost entirely by environmental anxiety. Furthermore, chronic stress can lead to psychogenic alopecia, where a cat obsessively grooms a specific patch of fur, usually on their belly or legs, as a self-soothing mechanism. To the owner, it might look like a simple skin allergy, but it is actually a compulsive behavior born from an inability to cope with their surroundings. This is why observing the silence is so critical. By the time your cat is losing fur or struggling to use the litter box, the psychological damage has already transitioned into a physical ailment. Recognizing the stare or the tension loaf today could quite literally prevent a costly and painful trip to the emergency vet next month. Signs of emotional recovery. As you begin to implement the environmental changes we've discussed, like adding vertical space or honoring their safe zones, you need to know how to read the all-clear signals. Emotional recovery in cats doesn't happen overnight. It is a slow unfolding of their personality. The first sign that the silent stress is lifting is often the return of vulnerable behaviors. You might notice your cat sleeping in the middle of the room rather than tucked against a wall, or they might finally show you their belly while stretching, a profound sign of trust that says, "I no longer feel the need to protect my vitals from a perceived predator." Thank you for spending these 10 minutes diving into the complex emotional world of our feline friends. My hope is that the next time you see your cat staring quietly from across the room, you'll take a second to check their whiskers, their ears, and the tension in their shoulders to see if there's a story they're trying to tell you without making a sound. If you found these insights helpful, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. We are constantly exploring the deep bonds and hidden behaviors of the animals we share our lives with, and your support helps us continue this research. Don't forget to leave your answer to our mid-video question about indoor life in the comments. I'll be down there responding to as many as I can. Until next time, keep observing, keep learning, and give your cat a little extra space today.